Welcome back, everyone. Here we are at the end of the regular season. Technically, I think we have the rest of the games to simulate through today, and then maybe there's a game 163 for some teams. So let's check out the standings, see if it's all sorted. As we saw at the very end of our last episode, Baltimore did hold some sort of tiebreaker over the Yankees, whether it was head-to-head or something else. So they won the division. Yankees take the wild card along with the Rays. Guardians won the Central. Rangers won the West, and then the Angels did end up sneaking into the playoffs. So we'll get to see Ohtani and Trout in the postseason at long last. Astros finished a couple games back, so nothing really down to the wire in terms of wild card finishing. The Mets did prevail in the race for the final wildcard spot over the Diamondbacks. So I'm assuming that was another tiebreaker, just like the Yankees and Orioles had. And then the Cubs, I guess, had some kind of tiebreaker over the Brewers. It looks like, given how their season's finished, it's very possible. I'm kind of curious. I think the Cubs might have played the Brewers at the very end. They did, wow. So Milwaukee just had to win one of the final two games to take the division, and they lost them both. So with that, let's actually look from the perspective of the Angels and just sim through the postseason and see how this goes. So the Angels lose game one, but rally to take 2 and 3. And it looks like Jace Young is in their starting lineup too. I didn't notice that when we checked their lineup at the end of last episode. But yeah, sure enough, he's their second baseman. Looks like he barely played for him, but he's their starting second baseman now, at least against righties. So how about that? Crazy stuff. Let's see elsewhere. Elsewhere, the Rays edged the Yankees. The Phillies took down the Padres, so a bit of an upset there. The Phillies won 86 games and the Padres won 99, and the Cubs took down the Mets. So it looks like actually the lower seed won in every instance except the Cubs Mets, which that's a bit of a misnomer because the Cubs were the higher seed, but they had a much worse, well, not much worse, but they were 4 games worse than the Mets. So I guess the team with less wins going into the series won every single series. Let's actually check out that final Texas Angels game. Seemed like a good one. I guess not a ton of fireworks late. Jace Young hit a triple, 2 hits on the day. That's crazy. Let's see, did Lang pitch too? Lorenzen and Lang both pitched, and both pitched gross innings. So how about that trade for the Angels? All of the former Tigers they acquired all contributed. That's cool. Good stuff. Good for them. Let's see the Tampa Bay, New York Series, super low scoring. Let's see, 8 runs total in the whole series. Rays won game 1 in 14. We don't have that ghost runner in the postseason, so you can see why that game would stretch out. Yeah. Very stereotypical October. Phillies seem to win in relatively straightforward fashion. Another low-scoring series, and then the Cubs benefited with that higher seed by having home field, and they took advantage and route to a quick 2-game sweep. So let's go back in the perspective of the Angels and see how the ALDS goes for them. Looks like the Seawolves did make the playoffs, so my bad there on not being present for that. Not too worried about how the minor league teams do or don't do in terms of win-loss. I just hope the players develop. In AA, we didn't really have hardly anybody who was a B potential by the end, so wasn't too worried, but it's pretty cool that they made the postseason at least, I guess. The Angels are done. They won game 1, and then seemingly got taken care of pretty easily by the Orioles. Let's see what else happened. Cleveland lost to the Rays. So we have Rays and Orioles for the right to go to the World Series. Final game was 1-0. Very tense, I can imagine. Hunter Renfroe, their trade deadline acquisition, coming through with the deciding blow. So tough break. Cleveland's magical season ends up seeing them fall short once again. The drought continues for the Guardian franchise. Looks like Game 3 against Tampa was very reminiscent of a game they played, I think, in 2021 maybe, or maybe it was last year's playoffs. I think it might have been 2022, or I think it was Cleveland against Tampa Bay. It went super deep into late innings, and then I think Cleveland walked it off in like the bottom of the 15th or 16th. So, good series there. Underdogs are certainly having their moment in the sun. The Dodgers are also done. That was one of those series, kind of reminiscent of Yankees Athletics from 2001, where the road team won every game. The only exception is the Yankees won the final game at home in that series. But Dodgers only scored 1 run in all 3 games at home and won both their games in Philly, but that was it. So both 100-win teams are sent packing. See how the Braves-Cubs series went. Oh my goodness gracious. Is there any team hotter than the Chicago Cubs? The Cubs come into the postseason 80-82, having to win their last 2 games to qualify. And they have not lost since they've entered the postseason. So the World Series is shaping up to be a really interesting matchup. You could have a team who finished the regular season below 500, taking on a team that has spent most of the past decade or so with 100 losses. It's pretty crazy stuff. Let's look from the perspective of the Cubs and see how their NLCS goes. What? My goodness gracious, the Cubs, who are now 9-0 in the postseason and winners of 11 straight games dating back to the regular season, are heading to the World Series. They won every game by 1 run. And because they won their division, they actually still have home field. They did not have home field against the Braves, I don't think. Yeah. No, because they started in Atlanta. But truly remarkable run. I mean, it looks like pitching has been their forte. They gave up 5 runs in Game 1 to Atlanta, but other than that, the maximum amount of runs they've given up is 4, and they've given up 2 in a couple, 0 in a couple, 1 in one of the games. That's wild. The Cubs, not really an underdog story in terms of they've won recently. I guess it was, 7 years ago now? And they still have a decently high payroll. Not necessarily in the echelon of the Mets or Yankees, but they'll be taking on the Orioles, who lost Game 1 against Tampa and then won 3 one-run games in a row and finished it off. Looks like that's kind of the Orioles' MO, is lose the first game and then sweep it from there on out. So I would imagine the Orioles are the betting favorite in this World Series. They almost certainly have more talent. Let's see, what's the best way for me to check that? Probably to just go here. Orioles come in at 10th overall and pretty much in the top 10. Pitching is 11th in every category except power, where they're 27th. The Cubs are 17th. Pretty average across the board. Good defense. But remarkable postseason run sees the Cubbies in the World Series. So let's stick with the Cubs. And the Cubs winning streak continued all the way up till the potential clinching game where they lost in extras. So let's see if the Orioles can mount a comeback from down 3 games to none. That means the Cubs' playoff winning streak topped out at 12 and 14 in a row total in the most crucial time of the season. Absolutely remarkable. The Cubs lose another one, also in extra innings, and they finally prevail. They were in trouble there. Looks like they were down, 6-2 going into the 7th. They tied it up, and then were able to scratch across a run in extras and hold on for the win. So the Cubs win the World Series. And I mean, doesn't that go to show you, it's a little cliche to think that, well, if you get in the playoffs, anything can happen and that's it, almost saying like the goal shouldn't be to build the best team you can. The goal should just be to find a way to get in the playoffs, and then who knows what can happen. But the Cubs did justify that mantra and then some with their postseason performance. Although the thing is, whether they were just due for a really hot streak or, something magical happened behind the scenes, if you're going to go on a 14-game winning streak at any point in the season, then theoretically you got a chance to make some noise and do something like stumble into a World Series. So, good for them. I mean, it's really kind of out of nowhere. Certainly unexpected. Most of the season they weren't even in first place in a terrible division, probably one of the worst divisions ever in history, and now they win it all. So with that, we kind of already went through our player stats and kind of who disappointed and who really excelled. But we can take a look at the awards. So Dansby Swanson, World Series MVP. Postseason MVP for the American League, Mullins. Swanson wins it for the National League. Silver Sluggers I don't really care about that much, but I'll just scan through these. I don't imagine there are any Tigers featuring here. Eric Haas finished second for catchers, which kind of makes sense given that it's normally a lower offensive production position, and he had 22 homers. So I guess that part is not completely flabbergasting. Let's see, Gold Gloves. Zach Neto finished third. From what I've gathered, especially seeing these, 1000s. Now, Judge is actually a really good fielder. I think only rated 73. I know at some point in his career he's been among the very best defensive outfielders. I don't know if that's changed. And Adolis Garcia seems like he's legitimately a pretty good defensive outfielder. Same with Kepler. I think, though, the Gold Glove criteria is quite literally determined by who has the highest fielding percentage, which has pretty much nothing to do with Gold Glove winners in real life. At least not anymore. I know that was at one time the criteria. Joey Wentz finishes second in the Rookie of the Year voting, so certainly deserving. I guess one could argue he actually should have gotten it over BB. Now I'm curious what BB's FIP was. I think Wentz had a better season. He had more WAR. Yeah, I mean, BB won more games, but this isn't 1985 anymore. Like, we have different ways of evaluating who was a good pitcher. So I imagine the game doesn't have the extra first-round pick baked in for having your player win Rookie of the Year, because that is a thing that Major League Baseball has recently adopted. If that is in the game, though, I'm going to be even more salty about this. Spencer Steer won it in the National League. Again, I guess I'm curious what his WAR was and what this says. Didn't have a high OBP at all, under 300, WAR of 1.3. So let's just look at even like Corbin Carroll, who is kind of a really multi-talented, toolsy guy. Yeah, so it seems like they are very much evaluating this in pretty binary terms and just saying like, okay, who had like the highest homers and RBIs for rookies? Okay, you win. Or, which pitcher had the most wins and who had a good season. So that's kind of dumb. Emmanuel Clase lights out as was Evan Phillips. Seager ended up cruising to the batting title. I know he was 360 when we played them earlier in the season. The only guy in the American League over 300, so it wasn't even close. And Conforto ended up hitting 322. Really impressive. Just kind of out of nowhere. 20 homers, too. I mean, that's a heck of a season. Cy Young goes to Brandon Woodruff in the National League, which, I mean, an ERA under 2. 245 strikeouts. That's a heck of a season for sure. And in the American League, it ended up being Tristan McKenzie. I mean, what a staff the Guardians had, really. 2 19-game winners, both with ERAs in the 2s, and then BB as well. So impressive stuff. Trout won the MVP. I mean, what a season. 345 homers. Got the Angels to the playoffs. And Schwarber won it in the National League, which again, I'm going to check his WAR. 1.8. Yeah, which is kind of like shockingly low. I mean, I know he's a pretty bad defender, but he had a similar season last year and had like 4 WAR. I think it said Mookie was probably worth a ton of. Yeah, I mean, not an immense amount, but if we go by WAR, I guess Woodruff should have won. Trout though, 9.4. That's incredible. What an animal. And interestingly, like, pretty available. And I think, you know, on baseballtradevalues.com, his value is pretty low because his contract is obscene, given that his durability is seriously in question now. He keeps getting hurt for long periods of time. So that I understand. But he's also, because of his contract, pretty available in the game too. So it's kind of a tough one because I feel like we could have acquired Mike Trout for not much value in the game and not much value on baseballtradevalues.com. But I think, I mean, that's one. Not only would it be, you know, pretty wildly unrealistic to just say, hey, yeah, we're just going to trade for Mike Trout and give up nothing in return, but it's one of those niches that I don't want to exploit because, like, I understand why his trade value is what it is in real life and also in the game, because the game very much does not prize these really long, pricey contracts. It's the same reason why it's not that hard to trade for Mookie Betts either. And that's with the Dodgers, who have consistently had one of the highest payrolls in Major League history over the last handful of years. But I don't want to exploit that because it just feels like a very unrealistic way to improve the team. So with all that being said, that is our postseason. So let's go ahead and head into the off-season. I don't know where I need to simulate to. Third base coach is retiring. No problem. And we have to hire new pitching or hitting coaches or re-sign the ones we have. Okay, so we got some time to negotiate with free agents and also tender qualifying offers to free agents for compensation. So we got some stuff to look at here. Retirees, Zach Greinke is done. Let's see how he did in his final season. Not bad, really. I guess he pitched out of the bullpen mostly. 145 innings. Only started 3 games, though. So that's kind of an interesting quirk. I guess he was just doing a lot of long relief for the Royals, but pretty good season. His K per nines really kind of went through the floor. But all in all, not bad. Verlander retired too. Wow. He fell off a complete cliff. Holy crap. Not at all really reflecting how he's been in real life. But, jeez. That's crazy. Especially, I guess he didn't have and I don't know if all these guys' contracts zero out, but that's really interesting. Not seeing Cabrera yet. So Cabrera is, I guess, going to stick around. He's a free agent, so we're not going to re-sign him. But Madison Bumgarner also done. Kind of a sad end to a great career. He, similarly to Cabrera, seemed to fall off a cliff, and then once he fell off the cliff, that was it. Wainwright also struggled in his final year, but he was still really good. You know, 2020, 2021, 22 for good Cardinals teams too. Rich Hill, he's finally done at the age of 44. Pitched a pretty full season with the Pirates and really wasn't all that bad. Onyx Vega tore his MCL and he's done. It's a bummer. Sean Doolittle had a good run there with not only the Nationals but also the A's, back when the A's were pretty good about 10 years ago. So AS Cabrera is going to keep on chugging. I mean, he, like Verlander and so many of these other guys, saw his overall rating absolutely plummet as the year went on. I think he finished the year like as a, I don't even, 63 or something. So that's that for that. Robinson Cano inducted into the Hall of Fame. Career 300 hitter. Good to know for immaculate grid purposes. All right. We're not going to rebrand the team. That's kind of a cool feature that they have there, though. So let's review our staff. Hinch seems all right. I mean, I think in real life, I think he's fine. I kind of want to see, yeah, so what other managers are hiring? Mark Pryor. How about that? Life comes at you fast, I would say. He's now a manager available for hire, although he's only 38. I remember watching him pitch in 03. It honestly seems like he, along with Kyle Snyder, might be some of our best options. I mean, we got the money for it, but I don't know how much it really makes a difference. So, let's see. Pitching coach. So, I'm not seeing that I could just like re-up Chris Fetter anywhere. I don't know what his attributes are, but I would be inclined to do that. I also don't even see him anywhere in this list. So I'm not totally sure what's going on with that. Tom Brady. It's tough because I don't want to prevent us from being able to dip into our pretty sizable available money. I don't want to prevent us from being able to do that for any players, because I think players are what really matter, but also if we got the money, might as well spend it on these guys. I mean, there's a bunch of really good pitching coaches out here. So I'm curious about Chad Simas, really young guy. A attribute though, only bringing positives to the board. I don't think we have to give him too much money, relatively speaking. I mean, 1.2 million a year. We'll do a little bit above what he's asking and see how that goes. We also need a third base coach, right? We have a first base coach. He kind of stinks. Our farm director is all right. I guess he's impacting catchers a lot, looks like. Or, I don't know, blocking, that's a catcher stat. Otherwise, I'm guessing those are just general stats for the team. Let's look at third base coaches. Josh Rooney seems like a good one. As does Ralphie. Well, it's intrigued by Dave Nichols too, because he has +2 speed, and that's one of our big focuses. So, I don't know. I'm guessing they'll let you throw multiple offers out, so I'll throw multiple offers out. I'll give him also, Ralphie in this case, a little bit more above what he is asking as well. And let me just see, I'll offer Dave Nichols 2. Guessing interest level has to be, I don't know if it has to be a full bar for you to get him, or if that just means, hey, they'll probably come here. Curious how much competition there's going to be. So Mark Pryor, that's really interesting. let me focus on, see if there are any, like Kyle Snyder. Okay, so he's also providing a boost in speed. But Hinch, we'd have to pay $12 million to get rid of him. I think it's fine. I mean, he's not bad, and I don't think it's worth taking such a sunk cost on. So we do need a hitting coach too. So I kind of feel like it's interesting. Do you double down on power? Because Hinch is bringing +3 power. So do we just say, hey, yeah, let's just go all in with power? Or do you try and counteract the -3? What's Hinch's? I think it was like vision or discipline. Yeah, vision. I don't know what's best. Maybe we just do kind of a middle ground here. Tim Matsui is boosting vision a little bit, but then also adding on some power. So I think we've made an offer to all the different areas where we need to hire somebody. So there's that. We have our exclusive free agents. And I don't think we're going to offer any of these guys anything. They can all just go on their merry way. Because the thing is, I'm not offering Shreve a 1-year, $20 million deal. Because if he signs that, that's a joke. I mean, that'd be a nightmare. So I think all these guys can just walk. And that's that. So let's skip ahead a day or two and see how the negotiations go. Okay, so we can look at our contract statuses here for the guys that we can't do anything with yet. But so we got Chad Simas, which is cool. We got Tim Matsui. All right, so it looks like we just need to finalize the third base coach. And we got our offers out here. Looks like our offer to Dave Nichols is far and away the best. Here's what I'm going to do. Actually, I'm going to withdraw that offer. Looks like we're the only one in on Ralphie. So I don't know how quickly that could change, but Mets are kind of starting to enter the fray, but hopefully he'll just sign here. Sure. Let's look at what's happening here. We still have the best offer. Oh my gosh. That makes no sense. Because, I mean, it's fine, obviously, that a guy would choose another offer, but what doesn't make sense is saying, hey, the interest bar is really good. Like, you're in the lead. He's interested. And then, no, actually, you're not. Tommy Lasorda. So this is, I'm guessing this is like a little Easter egg, unless it's Tommy Lasorda Jr., because he looks exactly like Tommy Lasorda, the late former Dodgers manager. But if Tommy were still with us, he would not be 54 years old. So maybe they're just paying tribute to him. I don't know. Plenty of good third base coaches out here, though. Tony Beasley, adding 1 for fielding, 2 for stealing, A attribute. I mean, that's pretty good. There's a lot of really qualified guys here. So I might just go after him. I'm not seeing anybody who's really jumping out from a speed perspective. At least nobody who is bringing a lot to the table in addition to speed. Seeing a lot of, B guys with -2 or -3 and something else. So let's go after Hudson. Looks like we're going to be able to pay him a lot less than we were going to pay anyone else. So what are we at right here? We need to select our 40-man roster. Looks like we got 39 selected right now, but need to get rid of some people on this. So Let's see, is it okay? That's fine. I don't mind passing him through waivers. We have Malloy. Oh boy. All right. I think now is the time. How was Will Vest? Not bad, really. Could have been worse. Also could have been better. Let's see. We want Greg Francis on the 40-man. And I guess we want Pritchett on the 40-man too. So I think that about fills us up right now. So we're going to have to remove some other guys. We can add Luke Gold too. Corbin, I don't think we care in the least bit. Torkelson should not be in AAA, but whatever. Doesn't matter right now, I suppose. Malloy is on the 40-man. And other than that, yeah, we got a bunch of C guys. I think all these guys are automatically on the 40-man. So I think we're pretty much okay. Yeah. Ramirez looked like he gained a rating point, which is interesting. I wonder how he would have been. It's kind of a, I wouldn't say a massive what if, but okay, we want Santana on the 40-man. That's fine. I'll get rid of somebody. Santana definitely, and otherwise I think we're fine. We'll add Gold too. Yeah, alright. So we're gonna chop Will Vest. And probably Carpenter. I mean, he's 26. C overall. Decent fielder, actually. He's gotten better. I don't know. Do we get rid of Nevin? He at least has positional flexibility. Craig Jones is really versatile. He's also been absolutely horrific. But he's fast. We're just debating so many semantics here. I'll just get rid of Cisnero. When in doubt, relievers are always easier to replace than position players, so let's get rid of Cisnero from that mix. Let's add Santana to the 40-man, and let's add Luke Gold. And I think that should square us away. Let me check my pitchers again real quick. Job should be there. Skubal, Mize, that's fine. Flores, Povich. And then beyond that, we're not too worried. We got Francis added, so that's good. All right, let's see. So we can offer arbitration. Okay. So let's make an offer to Chirinos. He's looking for way more than we are willing to pay him. We could just sign him for another year at $2.2 million. And this is where it gets interesting, because if we go to arbitration, yeah, let's just go to arbitration for him. We can make an offer. Let's do maybe 1.5. Skubal, I don't know. He had a pretty average year. At one point, I thought about extending him long term. He's kind of old though, relative to his status as like an up and coming player. And oh yeah, he's the future. He's already 27. So I'm not gonna sign him for. Although, what does he want for 1 year? 2.2. Nah, that's okay. I'll offer 1.1. Haas had a really good year. I suppose he could be a designated hitter for us. I don't really want him to keep playing the field. I'm hoping we can upgrade the catcher position, and we're pretty happy with Jake Rogers, so we can offer him arbitration. Offer him just under $1 million. Harold Ramirez pretty much had a nothing burger of a year because he got hurt. but I do like his potential, even though his actual potential in the game is only a C. But I do think he has the possibility of being a useful player for us. I'll also offer to Badu. Rogers, I'll just say 720. The rest of these guys are pretty much washes. I will offer to McKinstry 722. He had a really good year for us. Alexander was disastrous. I don't think Matt Manning is very good. Although he had almost 2 WAR, which there's got to be something wrong with that calculation. His FIP was pretty good though, so that's probably part of it. I guess he could be a useful bullpen arm, so that should be fine. We don't need Alexander back. He was not good, and everyone else, take it or leave it. It's fine. So we can do that. It's time to bring all these guys back. So let's just renew his contract. I suppose we can wait on that. I guess this makes sense. We'd be signing him for actually even less than his renewal is. So this would be like 600K, so we'd save a couple 100,000 there. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if that's worth it. It seems like it might be. I don't know if that changes anything. No. I guess the thing is, what I don't know in the technicalities of contract language and, you know, MLB Players Association, whatever they've negotiated into their player rights. What I don't know is if you sign a player to essentially like a free agent deal, so it's not the normal progression of renewing the contract and then going to arbitration for 3 years and then they're a free agent. Like if I do this with Neto, does that mean after this 2-year deal he's a straight up free agent, or would he still be in need of arbitration? That I do not know. So that makes me, I guess, a little leery, although it says that we need to offer them contracts, and then if they don't accept, then we can just renew. So we have to offer them some sort of contract. So what you also could do theoretically is, and it seems like it is the case where if they sign for 2 years for whatever, they would still be, you know, arbitration eligible for 3 years. I'm wondering if the ideal strategy is actually just in here, like in this instance. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna, I think, save a couple 100,000 by bringing these guys back for basically, because 1.2 million over 2 years. I think that's like 600K. Because I believe that offer, yeah, that offer is not saying that's the annual value. That offer is saying that's the total value. And I can get Madden for real cheap. I mean, alarmingly cheap. that's not even fair. So I'm not going to do that because that is ridiculous, but I will do this. I could get him for $300K for 3 years. Wow. All right, let's do it. Riley Green, another one that we could lock up long term. But he's going to want a lot of money very quickly. So let's probably just do this. Do the same thing we've been doing with everyone else. Job, you better believe we're bringing him back. He starts to want a lot of money pretty quickly. But we can sign him to the same kind of sweetheart deal that we signed Madden to. I mean, yeah, this gets ridiculous very quickly. It's like, dude, you'd be making the same amount that I was making as a teacher when I used to teach. So we're not going to do that. That's horribly unrealistic. But we will still take a pretty good deal. Mize we can bring back. We are not bringing him back at that price range at all. But we'll do that. Wow, all right. $580 is the number, huh? All right, 580 is the number, 580 is the number. It is ridiculous what some of these guys are willing to take. I mean, you're willing to take 60. Doesn't even make sense. I guess he would theoretically be a minor league pitcher, but I'll offer him like 200. Torkelson. Yeah, I guess we'll give him the same deal we give everyone else. I'm not as thrilled about Torque. He had an okay season. He ended up basically being a replacement level player though. So, I mean, how much are you willing to pay for someone who is just kind of playing like an average Joe? But we'll give him that deal, that's fine. Flores, we will also renew. We'll pay him. We'll do that one. Foley ended up pitching decently. Wasn't great. Wasn't that bad. Holton, yeah, take it or leave it. And all the rest of these guys are pretty rough. I'm gonna make decisions on them in a little bit. But for now, we'll sign Seal, or at least try to. Pacheco, we can bring him back. Malloy, we can bring back. Alright, he's taking whatever, so we'll do that. McKinnon is a potential, so that's, I think, worth a continued look. I mean, the rest of these guys, it's kind of just a waste. Don't really know what the point would be to bring any of them back. The problem is, though, not that you lose, you know, like, oh, this immense amount of talent, but the problem is when you do this, all right, I'm going to offer all these guys not much. And then I don't really care about bringing Maton back. I guess I'll sign him for under what we had him, though. The problem with a lot of these guys is you don't offer them, and then they become free agents, which is fine because they're, you know, pretty replaceable. not that big of a deal talent-wise, but it does become a problem just because then your roster has like, 40 guys total on it in the whole organization. So then you're kind of in a mess just trying to fill out the roster with literally anyone. So that's the one downside. Bo Brisky we can re-sign. He was pretty good in AA for most of the year. Don't know how he pitched in AAA. Let's see what Veerling's WAR ended up being. He was hurt all the time. Not bad. he broke his arm 2 different times. He's like Scott Sterling before long. It was just out of control. So we'll sign Veerling for $600K. Ibanez, I mean, he's versatile. I can say that about everybody. He's a negative WAR player. No, we can't. Come on. We're really gonna try and bring someone back who's a negative WAR player. Holton, I guess. We'll throw him something. And Foley, we'll throw him something too, and that'll be it. Alright. So, I think we've gone through everyone's. I think we made the offer to Neto, I believe, yeah. Yeah, I think we offered everybody. Yeah, we can double check up there. Yeah, Bonnies, no. Everyone who's renewable, we offered. And the rest are just whatever. And Luke Gold, we can offer something to as well. That's honestly not bad money for someone who's probably going to be in AA. Alright, that's fine. We've selected our 40-man. Free agency is happening. So we can just go ahead and try and sign these guys. Alright, this is where we can really make some hay. I think we definitely have to go after Ohtani. It's not like acquiring him is going to end the rebuild, and that will mean that we're ready to win the World Series, but I think we have to throw some money at Ohtani. He's just maybe the best player of all time. So let's see what we can do. Now what if I give him a 10-year deal, which actually I don't think is wholly unrealistic. It looks like this is the max it's letting me give him. I can't go any higher, which is interesting to me because it's baseball, so there's no salary cap. And I have more money available than $35 million in my coffers, as it were. So I wonder, like, if I did the max is just 35. They won't let me go above 35. I mean, Ohtani, I guess his arm injury influences things in a negative way for him financially, but he was maybe going to get, before he got hurt, he was maybe going to get 700, 800 possibly. Like, people are talking about numbers getting that high. I don't know if it actually would happen, but still. Yeah, let's do it. We can throw in a player option too. It's fine. I don't know how much it'll sweeten the pot, but let's go after Ohtani. We have a ton of money available, so I think we can go after a lot of these guys. Hader, I don't know. He's good for sure, but not that interested. Harrison Bader is a really good fielder who's fast. Now, doesn't check a ton of other boxes, but that alone is really nice. Chapman is also a very good fielder. He is not particularly fast, but he can play a whale at third base. I think we have a lot of options here to bolster our bullpen without paying top dollar. I'm not interested in Josh Hader, really. Aaron Nola is 30. and was good last year, and has been good. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in the league, so let's see what would he be commanding. Yeah, so they max you out at 35. They don't let you offer any more than 35, and he is not quite as interested now. The thing is, if I offered him 10 years like I did Ohtani, he'd be really interested. I'm not going to offer 10. That would be a ridiculous offer for someone who's 30 years old. So I think I will go after Bader, though. I'll give him a player option, and it doesn't seem like he cares very much about the contract structure. But I'll give him, I mean, he's 29, and he's 90 overall, is that right? A potential. He probably still has at least 3 or 4 good years in front of him, I would think. Heck of a fielder, pretty fast. He fits what we want to do. I'm going to give him 80.5 over 5 years. 16.1 million a year. It's a decent amount, but 7 million less than we were paying Baez. So let's do that. We're dwarfing the Yankees offer, dwarfing the Angels offer. James Paxton is 35, so I don't know how well he's going to age. Had a good year last year, though, but I'm a little leery about the age. Teoscar's pretty good. I mean, I also got to remember, he had a negative WAR season, though. And what does he want? 6 million a year? He's probably worth it, honestly. Snell was really good. 31. Wonder, yeah, so I'm going to maybe do a short deal for Snell and offer him just a crap more money than he says he wants. Honestly, though, this isn't that, relatively speaking, it's not that much money. So rather than pony up a huge amount for Nola, what I'm going to do is give Snell 2 years, 32.3 million, and try that. It looks like we still have a decent amount of available budget. Ooh, I like Julio Urias for sure. Yeah, he's real good. Yeah, let's see. I could give him a longer deal. Tough part is the money starts to add up pretty quickly. I'm going to think on that one. Bellinger, let's see how he did with the World Series Champion Cubs. Had a pretty good year. Bounced back pretty well. Pretty good fielder. Pretty fast. Good bat. Can play first and the outfield, so he could be someone that replaces Torkelson if Tork can't get it done. So I'll give Bellinger, I'll give him a 2-year deal as well. The problem is, the thing is too, I don't know about star. Like, can you just tell everyone they're a star? That doesn't seem sensible. But I don't know how they know that they're not a star. Like, it might get me into some hot water here, but I'll tell him, sure, you'll be a star. 2 years, it's fine. If I give him a player option, tell him he's an everyday player, 14 million a year. Yeah, pretty good offer. I mean, way better than the Cubs offer. So there's that. We might be able to completely remake this team through free agency, I will say. Honestly, though, pitching-wise, I'm feeling pretty good about much of the staff we have. You know, I do want to add a starter, and someone like Snell would be great. Urias would be great, too. I think it's going to be a little rich for my blood. And if we add Ohtani, we're not only adding fielder, but we're also adding a starter. So that's always the consideration there, which is fascinating and delightful, quite frankly. Will Smith, decent year. Jordan Hicks, not as much. But I feel like there's a lot of quality waiting to be had a little bit further down in free agency. Like Adam Duvall, I don't know how he's going to, and he had a really bad year last year. So what does he want? A bit much. It's tough with the guys who are 35 because they might be still really good for another year, or they might do what Verlander did, and he's older than 35, but they might completely fall off a cliff. So I'm always a little leery with those sorts of guys. Let's see, what was Jordan Hicks fit? Not great. I mean, it wasn't bad. Actually really good. His WAR, though, wasn't very good. So I guess he just didn't pitch much. He must have been hurt. I might take a flyer on Hicks. He wants a lot of money, man. Goodness me. I'd rather just trade for relievers. That's the thing with a bullpen, is you can just build your bullpen through trades. I mean, you don't need to go out and spend a ton of money on some reliever who may or may not actually deliver. Severino had a good season. Very good. And he doesn't seemingly want, well, that's a decent chunk of change. We got to think, we got Turnbull, we got Olsen, we got Wentz. So if we were to add Snell and Ohtani, we'd still have Madden and Job waiting in the wings. But that's a staff for you, I think. So I think that should be okay. Chapman is intriguing. He had a pretty good year. Not the greatest, but decent. He can field. He can run a little bit. So I think I'm going to go after Chapman too. He doesn't want that much money, relatively speaking, actually. I mean, I'll give him that. That's fine. Again, I'm not totally sure that I want to be promising guys that they're going to be a star when they're not going to be. But I'll give him $10 million a year. All right, so we have a lot of offers out there. We still have a good amount of our budget left, according to the chart in the bottom right. So I'm hoping that won't lead me astray. CJ Cron was briefly a Tiger, and then got hurt, and then was never seen in Detroit again. I can't remember. I think he was a free agent, so I think he just signed with the Rockies. But he could be a good designated hitter. I mentioned Haas as a potential DH, but I think we can find better options out there. Clayton Kershaw is a free agent. Anytime you see that name, it's always at least a little intriguing. But probably not worth it. Travis Jankowski is getting a little older, but had a pretty good season being a high contact guy. Can play all over the outfield. Again, kind of fits our profile. So we'll see how much he wants. Really not that much money, relatively speaking. He wants a longer term deal, though, it looks like. He's not as interested in the short term unless we're going to pay him a lot. So I think that'll probably price us out of him. Ahmad Rosario, free agent shortstop. Had a pretty good year for Cleveland, but doesn't really fit what we want. There is Grandal. Hit a bunch of homers. And otherwise, we're not finding much in the catcher market. All right, I am going to pause right here. And we'll pick this up in our next video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.